Reviews. Today I'm going to be reviewing Spider-Man Homecoming. After successfully being introduced in Captain America Civil War, Spider-Man gets his own film as a collaboration between Sony and Marvel Studios. We follow Peter Parker as he's settling back into his life as a high school student while learning to use his powers and his suit, and also coming to terms with his identity as a superhero. So wait a minute. So it's basically a coming-of-age story about Spider-Man coming home after being with the Avengers, and the character coming home to Marvel Homecoming. Actually, I didn't want this reboot of Spider-Man to happen because there's been already too many Spider-Man and I've been hurt before. Some wounds are yet to heal. However, now having seen the film, I must say that I'm so happy that this interpretation happened because this is one of the best, if not the best, movie Spider-Man that I've ever seen. I'm also glad that I skipped a lot of the marketing material after the first trailer because I believe the first trailer already showed me way too much. So going into this film, I didn't really know what to expect. I thought it's going to be good, but it definitely exceeded my expectations and I love it so much and I cannot wait to see it again and again and again. And of course, I cannot wait to tell you about the top 3 things that I liked about Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 3, the setting. I really like the mold of the story within which this film took place. First of all, it's part of the MCU, which is really cool to watch Spider-Man swing around the city and you see the Avengers building in the background. It's a dream come true. And also they established this really cool mentor-student relationship between Tony Stark and Peter Parker, and their chemistry worked really well and it added a lot of heart and a really nice connection in the film. After seeing the first trailer, I was actually worried that Tony Stark would be too much in the film. That did not happen. Tony Stark was in the movie exactly the amount of time that he should have been, and he definitely did not take the spotlight away from Peter Parker. This is Spider-Man's film, and I thought that was pretty awesome. Another thing about the setting is that it takes place in a high school. It had this old feel of like John Hughes movies. I like that the stakes were not actually high in this film. All the problems and the issues that were happening were all pretty personal and contained. And to be honest, I'm really kind of getting tired of watching people save the world over and over again. So some people might think that the movie is not that exciting because it doesn't have high stakes. However, I found it refreshing to be able to relate to someone's problems and really invest in the character and in their plights rather than worry about a giant beam in the sky that's gonna destroy the world and we have to stop it. And I think Spider-Man Homecoming is the best Spider-Man film to portray Peter Parker in his high school life. Not only did it make this character more compelling, it also made us see how vulnerable this person really is. And as Stan Lee said, this is the best thing about Spider-Man and why he's so popular. He's us. When we were reading this comic as a kid, when we were watching the cartoons, we related to Spider-Man because he wasn't some giant 30-year-old billionaire person or some sort of superhero with great powers. He was someone like you and me. He's just a kid, and that's really powerful, and that's what makes Spider-Man so special and so different from the other superheroes. The number 2 thing I liked about Spider-Man Homecoming is the balance between Peter Parker and Spider-Man. I've always felt that the scales tipped in favor of one or the other persona. In the Sam Raimi trilogy, it tipped in favor of Peter Parker and his story and his relationship with Mary Jane and Ben and the responsibility and his friend Harry. When he was Spider-Man, I didn't really feel like he was, the cool, witty, catchphrasy Spider-Man that we know from the comics. However, in the second reboot where he was played by Andrew Garfield, I felt that Andrew Garfield really got the Spider-Man persona. However, Andrew Garfield was not a Peter Parker. I don't care what anybody said. That guy was a very handsome, charming 30-year-old man. And I always had a problem with that, and it's why I felt so disconnected from the Amazing Spider-Man series personally. However, here we finally have that balance just right. When we're watching Tom Holland as Peter Parker, number 1, he looks like a high school student, he looks young, and also you can sense his vulnerability and his weakness and his social awkwardness. He's not very comfortable around people, he can't talk to the girl he likes, and it really reminded me of that character that I related to when I was a kid. Yet when he switches over to Spider-Man, he's this enthusiastic, over the top, and I thought that was really cool and always super entertaining to watch. So this balance was maintained so perfectly. I can't wait to say this. The number 1 thing I liked about Spider-Man Homecoming is the villain. Yes, I like the Marvel villain. Celebrate good time. Come on. The Vulture in this film exceeded my expectations. What a great villain. What a great performance by Michael Keaton. Can I just say how happy I am that Michael Keaton is back and is here. I'm so glad that he found his way from Batman to Birdman to Vulture. Man, I love this character. And a hero is only as good as the villain who plays his foil. I've always said that Magneto was one of my favorite villains because he does not think he's a villain. So the best villains are the ones that think that they are justified in what they're doing, and the Vulture is the same. So you really actually relate to him and understand why he does the things he does. And I really loved his suit and his design. It's really cool. It's definitely a lot cooler than the comic book. If you can make the character better, I don't mind changes. And this definitely made the character of Vulture better and made him one of the best Marvel villains, if not the best. This film is great, but it's not perfect, so I'm gonna get a little nitpicky here and tell you about the top 3 things I didn't like about Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 3, the product placement. This might be a personal thing for me, but it always takes me out of the movie when I see product placement being done so overtly in a film. And here, the product placement was a little bit too over the top for my own comfort. The movie at times really felt like an Audi commercial. I mean, I know that the Audi car is a big part of the Marvel Universe, especially the Iron Man movies, but you know, it fits in the Iron Man world because of who Tony Stark is. It did not fit in Spider-Man's, and I felt like it was placed there by an invisible advertising hand. And of course, just like every Sony movie, and especially the Spider-Man Sony movies, Sony is also everywhere. I mean, really, when you think about it, why would Spider-Man need brake sensors on a car? He has senses. Spidey senses. They're kind of better. The number 2 thing I didn't like about Spider-Man Homecoming was some of the action. Don't get me wrong, the action in the movie is great, the special effects are awesome, as all the superhero movies that have been coming out recently, it looked pretty good. But in some of the action sequences, it got a little bit jarring and it was a little too shaky, and sometimes I didn't really understand what was going on. I would prefer the action sequences to be a little bit more fluid. Like, I really like the action sequences in the Sam Raimi films of all things, because we always saw Spider-Man move around so fluidly, and we always got a sense of his body and the way he moves as a spider from building to building. Even the Amazing Spider-Man movies gave us that really cool POV shot of Spider-Man swinging from one place to the other. But in Homecoming, I didn't feel like we had anything in terms of action that lived up to that. It could possibly be due to the inexperience of the director. I looked up the director John Watts' filmography and he hasn't really done much. So hopefully with time he will hone his tools and he will be better at this. And the action sequences definitely weren't bad. They were actually great. It's just there were certain moments that I wish were more fluid and more coherent. The number 1 thing I didn't like about Spider-Man Homecoming is that I had issues with some of the minor characters. First of all, I didn't like Liz, who serves as a love interest for Peter Parker. I thought she was really two-dimensional and boring. I didn't care about her at all. I really wish she was just a little bit more interesting so that I could be invested in his affection for her. I definitely cared about him and about what he's going through, but I didn't care about her at all. The girl that I was actually interested in is Michelle, played by Zendaya. She stood out for me and I really enjoyed the scenes she was in. I found her charming and charismatic, and I think her character would have much better chemistry with Peter Parker's character than that other girl. Another minor character that didn't work for me was Flash Thompson. I thought he was there just to be there. He wasn't enough of a bully or a threat, neither was he entertaining. He just fell flat for me and I didn't care about him at all. I thought he was kind of a waste. Other than that, Spider-Man Homecoming is actually pretty awesome. I have to see it a bunch of times before I can decide whether or not it's my favorite Spider-Man movie. It might actually be that. I was so entertained watching it. It's such a fun time at the cinema. If you like Spider-Man movies, you will like it. If you like the Spider-Man comics, you should like it. If you can get over the adaptation and the changes that happen, I think this movie is great time for everybody and I can't wait to see it again. And for that reason, I'm gonna give Spider-Man Homecoming a 9 out of 10. I can't wait to talk to people about this movie, so tell me, what did you think of Spider-Man Homecoming? Did you like it? Did you agree with me? Did you cry? I cried. I was so happy when it was over. Tell me what you thought in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, ask me for anything you'd like me to review for your next. See ya!